Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatasya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, text 37. So previously we discussed, Arjun had asked that Krishna, whatever you're talking about this yoga system, it's very difficult for me to adopt because it seems impractical and unendurable to me. For the mind is restless and unsteady. And then he says the famous verse, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna, means the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong for Krishna. And to subdue it, I think is more difficult than controlling the wind. And Krishna says, yes, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So the Dhyan Yoga system, even Arjun is saying it's very difficult for me to follow. At that time, 5,000 years ago, when he had all the facilities, even he is saying it's impractical. So what to speak of today's day and age? And Krishna says, well, it is possible by practice and detachment. How much practice? How detached we have to be? Takes time, long time, very, very difficult process. And then, even if one makes progress, one takes up this process and makes some progress. Now Arjun is asking more questions about this. Arjuna vacha ayati shraddhyopeto yoga chalit manasa aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjun said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Because it's not possible that everybody and everybody becomes perfect in this one lifetime. So Arjuna is saying, what happens to or lifetime, or it doesn't continue in the whole life. I mean, it takes it up and then leaves it after a while. What happens? Path of self-realization or mysticism is described in the Bhagavad Gita. The basic principle of self-realization is knowledge that the living entity is not this material body, but that he is different from it, and that his happiness is in eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. These are transcendental, beyond both body and mind. Self-realization is sought by the path of knowledge, by the practice of the Eightfold System, or by Bhakti Yoga. So self-realization can be done by either of the three, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. In each of these processes, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity, his relationship with God, and the activities whereby he can re-establish the lost link and achieve the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. So this is the process. Self-realization is what? First, we have to understand, who am I? What is my link with the Supreme Lord or the Creator? where did I come from, and what to do now? How to re-establish that lost link? Means the link is always there. It's not like we are establishing a new link or taking a new process. No, link is there. We have forgotten it. It's lost. Krishna can never forget it. We have forgotten it. It's just how to establish that link that we have to see. Now, Gyan Yoga in this day and age, to study the scriptures, to understand the scriptures and make progress on our own, no, not, not practical. Hatha Yoga also, Arjun himself says, it's not practical. So only Bhakti Yoga. In Kali Yoga, Bhakti Yoga is the only practical way and very sublime, very powerful. So following any of the above mentioned three methods, one is sure to reach the supreme goal sooner or later. This was asserted by the Lord in the second chapter. Even a little endeavor on the transcendental path offers a great hope for deliverance. So even a little endeavor, Prabhupada explained it over there, that whatever progress we make in the path of yoga, so next life will start off from the same point. Out of these three methods, the path of Bhakti Yoga is especially suitable for this age because it is the most direct method of God realization. To be doubly assured, Arjun is asking Lord Krishna to confirm his former statement. One may sincerely accept the path of self-realization, but the process of cultivation of knowledge and the practice of the Eightfold Yoga system are generally very difficult for this age. So Jnana Yoga and Hatha Yoga or Dhyana Yoga is very difficult. Therefore, despite constant endeavor, one may fail for many reasons. First of all, one may not be sufficiently serious about following the process. To pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare war on the illusory energy. Consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. When a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy or Maya, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. Why she tries to defeat? She is an energy of Krishna. But her purpose of defeating or testing is to make sure we are qualified to be in the spiritual world. It's just like teacher teaches in the school, but then he or she has to give the exam also to make sure that we are ready to go to the next class. So same thing here. A conditioned soul is already allured by the modes of material energy, and there is every chance of being allured again, even while performing transcendental disciplines. This is called Yoga Chalitamanasa, deviation from the transcendental path. Arjun is inquisitive to know the results of deviation from the path of self-realization. So this deviation could be, well, it's mostly by Maya only, whether she plays with our gross senses or subtle senses. So subtle senses mind could say, well, no, I don't want to do it. It's too tiring, too cumbersome. No, I'm not gonna, I don't want to do it. And other allurements could be there in the form of opposite sex or anything else that we stop making progress. Further, he has Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtish channa bhram iv nashyati apratishtu mahabaho vimudo brahmana pati. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So his point is, if somebody takes up this process, but either doesn't uh, go all the way to perfection, or he leaves it in the middle. So means taking up the path, as explained earlier by Krishna, means he is giving up the material enjoyment, sense enjoyment. So he did not enjoy senses materially, and he did not get success spiritually either. So what happens to that kind of person? See, people in the material world, they will be making fun of such transcendentalists. Ponga Pandita, yeah, whatever. He was just a show off. We had asked him, come join us in the party, let's go see movies or to the bars and clubs. He didn't enjoy that, and he could not even carry on with his whatever stuff he was doing. Just waste of money and time. No. And this is what Arjun is asking questions. So what happens to that person? So there are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they're more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work or pious activities. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. So-called material happiness. Actually, happiness is not there, but we think this is what will make me happy. But one who wants to make progress, who takes up this path of transcendence, he has to give it all up. Because spiritual advancement and material enjoyment, they just don't go together. They go ill together. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. It's like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. So the cloud tried to give up the small cloud company and take up the company of big cloud. But it can happen that he doesn't join or he doesn't stay there. Then what happens? Then Prabhupada says he becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. And this is what Arjun's doubts are or questions here. The Brahmana Pati is a path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Shri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. And therefore, one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many births. Bahunam Janmanam Manute, Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the supermost path of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. So even though one is on the supermost path, one can one can leave the body without attaining perfection. So further Arjun says, Etanme sanchayam Krishna chetum arhasi asheshata tadanya sanchayasya cheta nahi upapadyate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So, Arjun is an ideal student. He's presenting all his doubts in front of his teacher, Krishna. Krishna is the perfect knower of past, present, and future. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said that all living entities existed individually in the past, they exist now in the present, and they continue to retain individual identity in the future, even after liberation from the material entanglement. So we all existed individually in the past. Individually means we are not merging into anything. We had our existence. Which body, which family, which planet, only Krishna knows. We cannot know. And even in the future, same individuality will remain. So he has already cleared up the question of the future of the individual living entity. Now Arjun wants to know the future of the unsuccessful transcendentalist. No one is equal to or above Krishna, and certainly the so-called great sages and philosophers who are at the mercy of material nature cannot equal him. Therefore, the verdict of Krishna is the final and complete answer to all doubts, because he knows past, present, and future perfectly, but no one knows him. Krishna and Krishna conscious devotees alone can know what is what. So this is where the acharyas come in, or Krishna also. He only can answer. Or in future, when we have questions, so we approach acharyas to answer our questions. So Krishna says, Shri Bhagwan Vacha Partha Nareha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kashchid Durgatim Tat Gachati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction. Well, does it mean that he's not going to die? What is going to happen to him? No. Let's see what Prabhupada says. त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरेर् भजन पक्वोऽथ पतेत्ततो यदि यत्र क्व वा भद्रम् अभूदमुष्य किं को वार्थ आपतो abhajatam sudharmata. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. So there is no loss. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in occupational duties and yet not gain anything. Generally, non-devotee, this is what their argument is. And the biggest duty for any person is to take care of his family, take care of his children, or take care of his health, take care of his money, parents. Or there could be other arguments. But Krishna says, even if somebody is fully engaged in his occupational duties. Kovart apto abhajatam sodharmata. What did he gain? So if a person, suppose as prime minister of a country, president of a country, he works very, very hard for the country, in the end, what? Nobody is saying one should not take care of his responsibilities. But one has to be careful of where he is investing his money, his time, his energy, his life. One has to be careful of. So, suppose one takes care of his country very, very nicely for whatever, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. Okay, not even country, come down. Suppose one takes care of his estate, where suppose he was a king and he has a little kingdom, he takes care of the kingdom very nicely. Let's come down. Suppose, forget about kingdom. I'm just a ordinary householder. He takes care of his family very nicely. Serves his parents and takes care of wife and children and has a nice house and takes care of his retirement. He has saved up enough money for retirement, does some pious activity, some charity, some austerity, something here and there. But in the end, what? If he doesn't go back to the spiritual world, then he has to take birth again in the material world and start all over again. Yes, whatever punya karma he has done in the previous lifetimes, he will enjoy the reaction, and whatever sinful activities he did, he has to suffer for those. So in the end, yes, maybe few people will talk about him. Oh, he was such a great man, such a great leader, such a nice person. But that's about it. And this is what the shloka says. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam hares. Means he gave up his dharma, or dharma means the duties, responsibilities. And he took shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. But he fell down. Bhajan apakvo at means he didn't achieve perfection, and he fell down. Pate tato yadi. Still, the shloka says there is no loss or degradation, because whatever progress he has made, it will remain with him eternally. Eternally. Any material progress that we make, it will remain with us. If it doesn't go away sooner, then at least until the point of death. So this is the right investment, actually. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfection stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Yes. One has to suffer for the reactions for not executing prescribed duties. Prescribed as suppose as a son or as a father, as a mother, as a husband, as a wife, there are some duties, and we have some rin or debts to the sages, debts to demigods, debts to Mother Nature, parents, earth, We have so many debts as a human being when we are born. So, best way is to take care of both the duties. I mean, we have to do take care of our responsibilities as a householders, yes. But again, understanding these are my bodily responsibilities. What about my spiritual responsibility? So we just studied that a living entity has a permanent relationship with the Lord. With the Lord, we have lost that link. We have forgotten that link. So we only remember our relationship based on our body. This is my wife, this is my husband, children, parents, so on and so forth. But these are bodily relationships. So yes, take care of them. But what about our spiritual relationship? Who's going to take care of that? Spiritual progress or spiritual taking care of relationship remains eternal with us. That's why it's called Sanatan. Bodily relationships will end in this lifetime. And next life we'll have new bodily relationships. So where does that end? Nowhere. It just goes on and on and on and on. So it is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. Becomes subjected to these reactions of not executing prescribed duties. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so, even if he is born, if he is low born in the next life. See, prescribed duties. Suppose even in material world, one has to take care of his all these debts. But if the king or president says, well, you join the army, go to the war front and fight. So the soldier is not taking care of his prescribed duties because there's an emergency situation at the war. And suppose he dies in that war. I hope he doesn't, but suppose he dies in that war. Then, according to scripture, then he goes to heaven. Somebody said he didn't take care of his duties at home. But there was an emergency situation, and the result is he goes to heaven. So who will take care of the family? Family, if Krishna has given birth to somebody, he will take care. He will maintain. We don't need to worry that much. So now, if somebody takes up even a higher duty of serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna, going, making progress on this path of self-realization, then won't Krishna take care of the family? Of few, for him, it's just few living entities. And this is why, even though there is sinful reaction for not doing the prescribed duty, and here Prabhupada says, there's no need to worry. Because one is doing his supermost duty. And this is why Krishna says in the 18th chapter, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami ma shucha. Sarva papebhyo. Of not doing your prescribed duties, I'll relieve you of all the sins. And this is when Krishna says that, there's no need to doubt him. You cannot doubt him. So Prabhupada said, one so engaged will continue to be so, even if he is low-born in the next life. So it could be low-born because of not executing our duties properly. But for Krishna consciousness, for doing bhakti, it doesn't matter which birth we are in. Of course, it's very, very difficult to do bhakti in any life lower than human life. Some exceptions are there, but otherwise it's very difficult. So even if one is born as a low-born, as a human being, he still can carry on with his devotional service. We are studying in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Haridas Thakur, who was Brahmaji himself, but in this lifetime he had to be born in a Muslim family. But still, somehow he came in contact with the devotees and he took up chanting of the holy names and he became an Namacharya. Mahaprabhu himself gave him the title Nam Acharya. So bhakti does not depend on anything, any of our bodily designations. It's a connection of heart or soul with Krishna. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of the next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section. The whole philosophy is eat, drink, and be merry. That's it. We don't care for anything. Don't care for next life. Don't care for any spirituality. This body and this life is all in all. That's it. That's non-regulated. And those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. So prescribed duties for according to Varna and Ashram. Their duties. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Animal propensities are what? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And this is what most of people are doing also, living a non-regulated life. They could be regulated in their sense enjoyment, but scripturally it's non-regulated. Their activities are never auspicious because while enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in the material existence, which is always miserable. So sometimes in material existence, maybe these people living in maybe they have lots of money, maybe they have lots of followers, they're good looking, very nice education. But according to scriptures, they're always miserable. And there is no guarantee that next life they will enjoy the same opulences. If somebody is very rich, or not just very rich in this lifetime, beautiful or good looking, healthy, born in a high-class family, intelligent, Where is a guarantee that he will have the same opulences next life? So to come to these opulences, one has to perform lots of pious activities to get these reactions in this lifetime. But if he doesn't perform the pious activities now, then he has to suffer next lifetime. Here, people are not even ready to acknowledge reincarnation, but to speak of suffering or happiness in the next lifetime. Sometimes people do ask these questions. Oh, well, how do we know about reincarnation? It's so simple to understand. Why two kids born in the same family, same parents, why they have complete different lifestyle? One kid could be intelligent, the other kid might not be intelligent, one could be uh, better looking than the other one. One could end up being richer than the other one. Why? Who decides that? One could be healthier than the other one. Who decides that and on what basis? Just to avoid this question, people, oh, it's nature. Nature doesn't do anything on her own. Nature is Krishna's energy, Shakti, potency of Krishna. So, of course, Krishna himself doesn't decide because he has given these responsibilities to different demigods, especially Yamaraj. You take care of all these. So he decides based on our karma in the previous lifetimes, and not exactly the previous one. It could be any time. So many lifetimes we have had. And which karmic reaction is going to come in our day-to-day life? We don't know. Nobody knows. From which lifetime, which karmic reaction? I don't know. But it will definitely come. Only Krishna says or Brahmaji says in Brahm Samhita, that only by bhakti all these karmas are burned to ashes. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhaja. Otherwise, no. Okay, so this was unregulated life. Then what about the regulated? Those who are following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections. Namely, one, the followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. Second, those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence. Three, those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. So those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes. Those who are fruitive workers, karmakandis, and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. So those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life. So following the rules and regulations, but the desire is, I want to enjoy, I want to do karmakand. So they can be elevated, probably may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to higher planets. But still, because they're not free from material existence, they're not following the truly auspicious path. Because higher planets means what? Means sense enjoyment to a very high degree, a much, much higher degree than we can even imagine of on Earth. But the result is what? Kshine punne marte lokam vishanti. After the bank balance of pious activities is over, come back to material, come back to earth and start all over. So the only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. So any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Because we have to take birth again. And taking birth means again going through the cycle of birth, old age, disease, death, adidevik, adibhotik, adhyatmic clash, and in the process, we can commit many sinful activities, and then we have to suffer again. So activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. And because the Eightfold Yoga system is directed towards the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. Because the progress remains eternally with that soul. So the person is never lost, even if he makes a little progress on this path. So anyway, we can stop here. Let's see anybody has any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, in the US, Ekadashi is today, right?
Yes.
From what time to what time?
Ekadashi is whole day.
Acha, whole day. Okay.
Yeah, we break the fast tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.